Okay, so here we are, and probably what's going to be one of my favorite videos. So, vulnerable honesty is a concept that I thought of a couple years ago as I was recognizing what was happening in some conversations with my husband. And truly, it has changed everything about not only that relationship, but with other relationships that I've had when it came to my career and other family relationships and things like that. So let's dive in. So basically, being vulnerably honest allows you to speak your truth from the deepest place of love for all parties concerned. So it's really removing a lot of the ego that can come in when we're having conversations that might turn into arguments, or there's things that we're feeling we need to defend or protect or things like that. So being vulnerably honest just drops the ego. It says what's actually happening, and it's honestly willing to risk a little bit of embarrassment in order to create some deeper connections. So sometimes it's saying things that you maybe don't want to admit, but it's truly the feelings that you're having inside, and you're being willing to share from this really raw and vulnerable place that can actually allow the other person to see your humanity a little bit deeper. And it generally does open up more love and understanding. So when you open yourself up, miscommunication always happens. And I mean, I don't know about always, but probably always happens when you hide your true feelings, right? When your ego as a very strong force comes in, and it likes to be a force of protection. It doesn't want you to put yourself out there and be embarrassed or to risk anything. So it tries to protect by holding on to whatever viewpoint you have, or really just like hiding your feelings and then maybe lashing out to the other person and accusing the other person of things, and really trying to maintain a level of supreme judgment or righteousness, and just really being, it's all about who is right and who is wrong. And it has nothing to do with trying to actually come up with solving a problem, right? So that's where a lot of the miscommunication comes from. So when you are trying to prepare, so when you're going to be entering into a tense discussion, or perhaps you're already in it, check in with yourself and not, try to remove yourself from what the other person is doing that might be making you mad, or what you think they're doing to make you mad, and check in with yourself and like, why are you feeling activated? Get really honest with yourself and be willing to discover like, oh, okay, I'm getting mad about this because of this experience I might have had a lot of years ago with somebody that made me feel really bad. And now it's just kind of a repetitive thing that triggers me every time that I feel like I'm in this space. Or, you know, maybe you are feeling a certain way because you've made assumptions for a long time about the person that you're talking to. And so it just keeps like piling on and piling on, piling on. But like, why are you mad? What are you actually feeling? What is it about you that doesn't feel safe? Or what are you fearing? Because that's usually what that comes from too, right? And so getting really, really honest with yourself in this way is the only way to be able to honestly share it with somebody else. You have to recognize it within you first before you can also share with them what is happening. And again, this is always, always, always about you and what you're feeling and why you're feeling it, not because of their action or the thing that they did, right? So you're going to keep wanting to accuse the other person of saying, you did this and you made me feel this way, without questioning why it makes you feel this way. But try to resist this. So instead, it might be, when you did that, I felt whatever way, I felt frustrated, I felt angry, I felt abandoned, I felt embarrassed, and you can even say to them like, so I wonder what I made that mean for me. Like when you did that, I felt this way, but I wonder why I'm feeling this way. Like, why is this hurting me so bad? It might be that truly a need and a core value has been damaged, and maybe there truly is something that needs to be changed, but maybe there's just some healing that you need to do on this side. Maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what they have done to you, but more about something that you need to work on internally to realize that, maybe it's something that makes you feel less worthy, and you need to work on building up the worth on that end of things to start making yourself feel better. But you also could journal ahead of time to really think about yourself and to clarify some feelings that you're having and why you're wanting to have this conversation. Or also after the conversation, maybe, journal about how it went and how you're feeling now that it's over, or, things like that. So it can be really, really challenging to do. I'm not suggesting that this is an easy concept, but it is so, so worth it if you can really develop this skill. So I do want to say that, like, starting with honesty is just the greatest way to keep guards down in any conversation and any tense conversation. So if you're opening this conversation out of nowhere, like this person has no idea where this is coming from, you can introduce it by being very honest right away, right? Share your fears of having this conversation. So you can even, you just tell them, like, I really want to talk to you about something, but I'm afraid of how you might react, or I'm afraid that I might not say this the way that I want to. And just by telling them that directly, they're already going to drop their guard a little bit and feel more open to hearing what you have to say, because you're already admitting that, like, you don't really know how to do this skillfully, but you want to try. And the underlying message here, you want to try because this relationship is important to you. And you can tell them that as well. You could say that very directly. I want to have this conversation because you are important to me, but also let them know because you are important to you, right? And you want to make sure that you're both as happy as you can be in whatever relationship it is that you're having. And again, admit you might not do it the right way. Say that you'll, try your best. They'll be more patient with you. There might be a little bit more understanding. Acknowledge that this is a new thing that you're trying, but that it's very, very important. And expressing the importance of this, saying that it's important, will actually create a little bit more meaning to the conversation as well, because it won't be just like this conversation is just coming up on a whim. It's just something that all of a sudden popped up and no idea where it's coming from. It's something that you've given thought to, and you really want to have the conversation because it's something that, really is creating a lot of importance inside. And you can ask them. They might, again, you can't control anybody else, right? So they might not follow along, but you can ask for the conversation to go slowly so that you can process it better as you go along. So it's just a normal human request that, since it's new, you can ask for just some extra time to process as it's happening, as you're in it, to try to keep emotions in check on both of your parts, to have both of you being able to really, like, hear the other person without having to think of the response immediately while they're still talking. It'll give time to let each one of you talk, process what the other person said, and then speak it from there. Rushing the process in this kind of thing is never helpful. So just try the best you can to keep it slow and even, and not let things move too quickly for you. If you're already in the discussion and it becomes elevated and things do start getting a little bit out of control and emotions start running amok, you can request a break if you need to. If things are getting too much and you can't think anymore and you're not sure what's happening, you can take time to calm down and, exit or pause the conversation. Sometimes you will find that people won't want you to do that because they'll want to keep their ego is really aggravated and it wants to keep going and it doesn't want to stop. But you have the right to stop talking at any point. You do not have to engage with them. We'll talk more about the negative response in the next video and how to handle that a little bit deeper. But I've also heard that some people have used like a safe word. So agreed ahead of time that if you are constantly arguing with somebody and things tend to get out of control, you can both set, in a time when you're not arguing, set a word or a phrase or something that you need to say that lets both of you know that the limit has been reached for you and you need to take a break. So whatever that word is, it means you have to stop talking. The conversation has to be paused until you can both calm down to a better level to communicate more effectively. So I've heard that to be a really, good way for people to get through these tough conversations as well. Some additional thoughts. So when you're feeling activated, or some people call it triggered, what does that feel like, right? So activation is kind of like when you feel these feelings starting to crop up and build up in there. And for you, it might be different. You might have different physical sensations when you're feeling activated. You might feel a lot of heat or warmth. You might feel your throat closing up. You might feel a tenseness in your stomach. You might feel your head doing things, like whatever it might be. Just pay attention to what your particular physical feelings are when you're getting activated, so you can pay attention to something is about to happen, right? So when you're feeling activated, when you feel these feelings coming up, there could be a lot of reasons for this, right? So you might think it's just the first thing that you think of, like, oh, I'm just getting so mad because they said this. And sure, that's the thing that activated you, but if you go deeper, you'll probably find the roots to other sources. So whatever it is that they said is just something that picked at something that you already had, either an insecurity or a fear or something that you already have going on underneath that they just brought up to the surface. Like their action just brought that to the surface for you. And it's really important to take responsibility for it. This can be a really, really hard thing to do. And what it means to take responsibility is that you are in control always of how you react to a situation, right? And taking responsibility for whatever activation you're feeling inside will give you a much better understanding of yourself and a really clearer direction of how to handle it, because you will handle things a lot better if you feel you are in full control, which you always technically are. If you don't feel like it, then that just means that there's more work to do to get to that side. But when you're putting intentional work into these conversations, it is you that is fully in control and not just your subconscious that is just working on autopilot, right? And taking responsibility, I want to be clear, does not mean that you have to accept whatever is happening or just continue to deal with it, even if it hurts. It's understanding your boundary. It's understanding when your boundary has been crossed versus something that you might be getting worked up about that actually isn't that person's fault, because there will be a difference between those two things. So what this is doing and taking responsibility and knowing yourself is knowing if you're going to continue to allow this behavior to continue or not, or if you're going to give them another chance to try to, work with these boundaries that you're setting, or if you're going to have to move on. So having that responsibility just keeps it all, the ball is totally in your court of what you want to do and how you want to live your life based on how they react to what you're saying. So I want you to also understand that how you feel is always true. Always, always. Your feelings are always true, but the reason for them might not be, right? So your feelings come from your thoughts and your beliefs. And if you remember, sometimes these thoughts and beliefs are just on autopilot, and sometimes, and most of the time, they're negative, right? We talked about that. So the feeling is coming from the thought, and whatever your thought is, yeah, it's creating this feeling that's definitely true, but maybe question the reason why you're feeling this way, because there might be a lot of assumptions that you're making that aren't true, and the reasons might not be actual reasons at all. Okay, so in this one, we've got a worksheet available about how to have honest conversations. So it's kind of thinking of some conversations that you might be avoiding and to help you just sort of start planning for how you might approach them. And in the community, there's a lot involved in this practice of vulnerable honesty. So ask for support, or you can even request maybe somebody to help you with a practice run. Perhaps somebody would be willing to hop on a Zoom call with you, or, to help you sort of shake out what might happen and, maybe have them practice taking something well, or have them practice not, or that sort of thing, and, create some new connections there. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go deeper into how to handle the negative response when things don't go the way that you would hope that they do. So there's going to be a lot of meat in that one as well, and I will see you there.